But let's get started because it seems like this is a huge topic for everybody here, so no pressure. As we all know, we gather feedback, we look at feedback, we make product changes, and when it's great, it's at 44%, which is an amazing number. So impressed. But how do we tell our customers that we've made these changes? So before we get started, I'd love to hear from you guys. How did you get started in VoC? What do you do? And then I think most importantly for closing the loop, how mature is your VoC program?
Hi. Wow, a little loud. Kevin. I've been with Prioritization for 7 years, so I've done five fundraising rounds, and I'm beginning to see the gray hair. I actually got started being obsessed with the customer from a go-to-market angle. I've served basically every go-to-market team, from marketing, sales, top of funnel, and I've noticed in my time that even though these are the frontline folks talking to our customers or our market, they often have only their insights and it just ends in their organization. And it doesn't go back to the product team, doesn't go back to our leadership, and especially, you know, when you think about tech and you think about 7 years, and you think about the turnover, that insight and that wisdom is just institutionalized, and then these lineages of themes, I've seen mass extinctions, so to speak. So that's actually how I got involved in this.
My name is Min Gao. I've been with UiPath for also 7 years. I'm running the voice of customer for about a year or something, but before that, I'm doing the voice of customer in an unofficial way. So this round is a bit more supported by the leadership. They see a very important strategy toward running an official VoC, centralized, and having all the silo VoC program joining together into a single program. So similar problem, but a little bit different. So we have a lot of feedback from customers. However, the general sentiment from the customer is saying, we provide you all the feedback. Where are they? Are they just going to a black hole? So we really need to solve the closing the loop with the customer, right? Either we committed to solve something in the roadmap, or we don't do that, right? That's we just mentioned about we need to kind of say no sometimes. Perhaps it doesn't align with the strategy, perhaps resource constraint. We just need to be honest about our decision so that customer is not always waiting for us. We should be more proactive in communications.
I love that bit. The term black hole has been my number one thing I hear at work from all teams. So really we have to fix that. That's really important. But you mentioned really quick that we get all this feedback from all of these different channels. How do you prioritize if you're going to reach out? Which team or which customer are you going to let know first? So what's your prioritization?
Yeah, so it's like art most of the time. We try to move art to science with more data and number driven. But at the moment, we are looking at feedback source from different locations. And then we look at the highest impacting metric will be like customer AR, and for prospect we look at the opportunity size, and then we also look at the case volume. So we're doing a lot of collaboration with support team, with the sales team, with the SE team, right? Just to bring all those numbers together, because like everything has different way of measuring impact. So basically, the VoC program is about connecting all these teams together. We made some hypothesis on what the top impacting feedback should be. And then going backward, we say, all right, these are the top items that we need to fix. How can we provide the data to support these things? But obviously, we wanted to move a bit more in the future where we can use some kind of tool or GenAI capability to say, to help us to identify those hypotheses, right? Instead of one person saying, this is what we want.
What about you, Kevin?
I would say that there's a mixture of both weighing out the opportunity cost, so really common we use ARR, and I've recently, and I'm trying to continuously plant these seeds that ARR can't be the defining factor, because when you think about it, you are only weighing out things that are known. So for example, when we think about our account executives, if you have a sales team, they will only pipe ARR if they believe that they can reasonably close that business. So when a product team takes that and ingests that information and weighs this out as saying, hey, we will only build this if there's a dollar figure associated with it, we then get into this trap of building for only what we know we can win. So there's a, Min, you said it's a mixture of art and science, and this is definitely the art part of the science. And really we've tried to move away from, I forgot who said this, I think it was Bezod, let's go look at the highest paid person in the room, and then they'll tell a story about how their friend's going to buy the software, and we should listen to what they want. We're really trying to move away from that, and that's like that narrative-driven focus of like, hey, we could tell and craft a great narrative, and we could fit most of the pieces together. Now we're beginning to start to unpack a lot of that, I would say, early nascent stuff into, hey, can we thematically group things? Can we weigh this out in respect to the existing roadmap and really use different frameworks to remove our own natural biases that we're introducing into the system?
Okay, great. And let's get to the actual question I think people want to hear. But without looking at AI and all these cool tools, which would make our job so much easier, when you're looking at a very small program, a new program, how are you going to be able to close feedback loops with the customers without all these fancy tools? Do you guys have a success story of like the most successful pathway you've found?
Yeah, okay. I'll start with something really simple, and it involves two products that I know and love, and I'm happy to hear that they're here, and it's Slack and Notion. The first part with Slack is that's our main, internal communication, and especially since moving from being in an office to being fully remote during COVID, Slack is our only island that we can ensure that people are being updated. And I recall an earlier panelist mentioned that there's both this internal and external need for closing the loop. And so with Slack, one of the things that we've managed to do is all of the NPS, all of the surveys, any kind of like core piece of customer feedback that isn't buried inside a transcript gets pumped into a respective Slack channel, and everyone in the organization can see it. Because that is being made visible, everyone in the organization can also see how we are responding to it, who is sending that communication, and what that communication is. And we never even had that level of visibility when we were in the office. So this is definitely something that I've seen help both the internal and the external, and is using software that I would assume that everyone here has.
So for us, I think I'll answer this in twofold, right? One fold is our internal customers, and the other one is our external customer and how to close those feedback loop. So for internal, it's a little bit easier, right? We can partner with the product operation team. So they do those monthly product roadmap sessions. So they announce what the feedback are, they announce what their roadmap and what kind of feedback they already addressed. And they also send out the release notes. They make sure all the GTM team and sales team are aware of all the product changes and the roadmap. For the external customers, right?
Is it still good?
Okay, cool. So we rely on the GTM team and the sales team to do the communication, because obviously we're not staffed, right, to do that kind of level of communication ourselves. So we rely on the GTM and sales team, who are mostly close related to the customer, to deliver those informations. This is not the best approach right now. in the future, we try to do a bit more sophisticated way. But at the moment, this is what we have. So we make sure our communication, we capture all the information, right? So we use Jira to keep track of all the major customer information and requests. And then in that, we track of the specific customer name and whoever the internal folks that are assigned to those accounts. So we make sure the feedback are close with the customer through the GTM and sales team to communicate with the customer. If a customer have any kind of additional feedback follow-up, those information will generally come back with us in the survey, or they can use. They have a probably a separate way of tracking those customer input using another product. So we're looking at those additional feedback from there.
Yeah, I think both of you guys said something that's really important where you said it's not that clean, but it is getting the information out there. I think we kind of forget from time to time that customers just want to hear, even if it's not going to be the easiest way. We're always thinking about automating processes and making it like super scalable, but sometimes you just have to start off small. And I love the concept of like using your teams and those customer-facing teams, telling them what's going on, keeping them up to date. Love Slack. We also use Slack. It's a great format of passing along feedback. But moving along, I think the next thing that really comes to mind for me and that where I've struggled with VoC is when we do close the feedback loop, how do you measure success? Because are you going to be following each customer to see if they've start using the product feature or if their NPS is improving? How do you guys, what's your measure of success?
I would say that there's several things that we're always really weighing out. The first one, and I don't necessarily always agree that whatever is easy should be the thing that you're measuring. So like NPS, I think is a great kind of like waterline. But for a lot of, and like for those of you who don't know what our company does, we started with purchase order automation, and now we're into spend management, and we're touching on the accounts payable process. And for a lot of our users who've never really had to deal with structures when it comes to buying something, they might not actually be too happy that their CFO is saying, hey, we're going to actually have a formalized requisition process, which means that you're not just going to go take the company card and randomly buy shit, and then our AP team's going to reconcile it. It's like we're going to have a structured process. So there's a little bit of nuance to our NPS where we're actually going to change some of the things because, you know, for I think a lot of us, just buying the thing that we need without any input or kind of oversight is the easiest path forward, but not for an organization. So we really have to weigh out with our organization, is this NPS even if the NPS gets lowered, is it because the product isn't doing what it's supposed to do, or is it because the structures that the original business objective was built around are being achieved? So that's one of them. And then the other aspect is actually just around product and feature adoption. That I would say is like our gold standard that we're really trying to drive towards, because at the end of the day, we exist as a business to fill a need and a gap for our customers, and you should see a very tangible impact almost immediately as they begin to use and explore the platform. For us, we have, I'd say, like a fairly robust set of metrics that we could be tracking, from requisitions, approvals, purchase orders created, the type of stuff that is the very sexy part of procure-to-pay technology. And from that, the adoption piece is the main thing that we're just trying to drive towards, and that's how we measure whether we're getting close to our customers or whether we're actually straying away.
Similarly, adoption, utilization is actually a big thing, right? So we generally have a big problem where we sell a lot of license to customers, but a lot of time we know that the utilization is pretty low, right? So a lot of feedback are coming from customers saying, all right, we have all these products, but we have a hard way of using them. Hence, that's why they're requesting those features so they can use it more. So utilization is a big metric that we're measuring. Along with that, there NPS, like supporting data, as well as revenue data. So as a company, revenue is a huge thing, right? So it's always, they always wanted to get revenue. And then we also start building this kind of similar to what Kevin was doing, like a top 100 priority list. So every biannual VoC session that we're hosting, we bring in the top 30 items. Right? These are the top 30 absolutely needed feature requests from the field. So we're looking at that items to see like how many are we addressing like going forward, and then continue to build on that list.
Okay, cool. And I believe we only have a few more minutes. Right? Okay, so last question. In an ideal state, in an ideal world, what does closing the feedback loop look like?
I think it's not only this very clear internal aspect, because I actually feel that the internal teams that's the first group of people that you have to make sure they understand that you're addressing the customer need. If our frontline support team members don't feel like we're building towards usually their biggest challenges, then why would they have buy-in for any of our other initiatives? Externally, and I love some of the initiatives that I saw here today. I'm definitely stealing all of them. It's to be abundantly clear with the customer that even if we're not going to roadmap this right now, even if we're not going to address it in this form, it's to explain it quite clearly, because I think for a lot of us here in the room, our customers know a lot, but they might not know exactly how to build it or what's legal or what's even possible. And so it's on us as facilitators and practitioners to kind of guide them to, yes, I understand that you want faster horses, but here's the car.
Yeah. For me, I think for us, it's about customer-centric, right? So being understand what feedback are coming from which customer. It's important, really important, right? Building a central database that can host those kind of data is a key step. Outside that, we can say, knowing which customer and what feedback they have, we can individually address each of them. Sometimes we need to bring in like the leadership team to connect with the customer on the product strategy discussion. I think that's very important. A lot of information, you don't get it in the data, right? You only get it through conversations. So for certain curated list of accounts, we try to host those sessions where we bring the actual end user, the power users or decision maker from the customer side, together with our C-level or leaders within our organization, physically or virtually, to have a joint product discussion, product strategy discussion, right? To align on the what to build and what not to build.
Okay, and I think we're at time, but are there any questions? Oh boy, okay.
So I'm curious about the customers who are asking for faster horses when you give them the car. How do you identify them? Because they don't necessarily fit into the car list.
That's a great question. I think part of it, so I'll go incredibly tactical and granular in this example. We have people who are asking for a certain thing that fits their exact workflow. It's probably not even in the realm of possibility, and there's probably actually a better way of doing it. It's often on our product teams to kind of weigh this out and facilitate this discussion. But what's interesting, especially about our field, is the subject matter experts. I mean, like, I don't know how many of you have met people in procure to pay or spend management. It's pretty niche for fintech. The subject matter experts are often not the people who are inside of our product organization. And so they have to also lean on some of the experience that, and usually it's from our implementation team, our customer success managers, like the people who live and breathe the same air and water with our customers, to actually determine, is this actually what we should be doing? And then can we start prototyping and testing it with a select group of customers to see if that's going to drive their goal.
I think your super users become really important here, which is why I think VoC and advocacy go so well together, because you need those advocates to kind of help fill in the gaps where you can't personally.
I have a question about NPS surveys. So in B2B, I think UiPath and Procurify are kind of in the same path of like, when you ask people, would you recommend this product to your friends and family? They're like, no, I would never tell my mom about a B2B SaaS tool that I actually didn't, I wasn't even in the purchasing decision-making process. So what are some other survey questions that we can ask in the B2B world?
I mean, we just say colleague or business, and then also the way you send out the survey. So at ActiveCampaign, we've actually moved to in-app. So instead of being an email, it's just you send an in-app message, which makes them think more business instead of just, your mom or dad.
We've done a few things. We used to send out the email, did not go well. Actually blacklisted our own domain one time. Like, oh, okay, let's not send the NPS through email. We moved it to in-app, and there was actually there's slight tweaks that we did that dramatically changed some of the user behavior. So an example was actually where it was located on the page would actually change how people are responding. If they had an ability to include comments inside of the NPS, we also started changing behavior. And then this last one, which I don't know if it's cheating or not, we colored the 9 and 10 green. And then we colored the other ones red and yellow, like just really faintly. And that actually drove up engagement for people to engage with the NPS. So it's like just these small, subtle things, and we're always just trying to iterate on it, because I agree with you. No one asks their friends and family for B2B software advice.
Same. It's not reference to friends or family, right? So it's more for other business leader that they're connected with. So I don't own the survey. Actually, the survey is owned by a whole, many different organizations. I think we kind of covered that, right? Different team runs their own survey. So surveys, NPS survey is run by CS, and then there's another NPS survey, which is the in-product NPS survey, run by product. Essentially, this is one of the problems we need to fix anyway. So NPS survey is one of the indicator. There are a whole bunch of other surveys that the other organization team are running. My job here is to bring the survey result together so we have a centralized view of what that looked like. So can't answer your question, but so this is what the situation is.
A question for you about your NPS. Hopefully they're fair questions. One is like, how do you think about, I'm unsure about what your scale is, right? But how do you think about when to launch an NPS question, especially in app, right? Because you have a few things going for you or against you. One is timing, right? And the other is whether or not what you're flashing up a survey is going to have an interruptive or negative experience if the user's going through their journey or trying to get something done. How do you think about that?
For us, we have, I would say, like fairly robust segmentation of our user base. So of course, like our super users, they're actually differentiated from our champions, and they sometimes are the same people, sometimes they aren't. We segment that, those different user groups. Additionally, we have kind of like what most people would consider like a basic user, and they have one or two use cases inside of the platform, like I'm trying to request something. I'm trying to receive something. And so with this segmentation, we will change the timing of when we do the NPS. And of course, we'll also weigh out a little bit more like our champions and super users and their feedback. Of course, we're trying to take everyone's feedback, but again, the nuance is we might actually change the organizational behavior, and inherently it should be for the better. We know that there's going to be some people who used to be able to grab the card, the corporate card, and just buy. And because they can't do that, they will let us know, right? It's like, you made me spend longer because now I actually have to go through this process. And it's often on our CSMs and support to guide them through trying to give them that perspective that this is probably healthier for your organization as a whole, even though there's like some changes that have happened. So in addition to that, just to tie it in, developing strong internal stakeholders is a huge must for our company because you are talking about changing behavior.
Well, like I said, I don't own the survey, so I don't have input on that. So unfortunately.
Well, I will say, like, depending, you also asked about, how often, when. I found it that it's most important to really look at your industry and your software. If it's an in-app issue, it's a software that's being updated by the product team on a regular basis, you ask way more often. And ActiveCampaign, we now ask every 90 days because our product team is really active on fixing issues and changes. At other companies, we used to ask yearly because it was a buy now, pay later. Not a lot changed because it's a lot of compliance issues. So there's no reason to ask them multiple times because they're going to be like, I was declined because of a compliance concern. So I think there's flexibility, which I like with NPS because it really, you can improve your the feedback that you're gathering based on that.